And if the Most Holy Mary, while she exercised the acts of faith and hope, was in what might be called her most ordinary and therefore the lowest degree of activity, but if in that state she excelled all the angels and saints in merits by her faith and love, what must we say of the excellence of her acts, her merits, and her affections, during the time in which she was exalted by the divine power to the blessed state of highest intuitive vision and clear knowledge of the divinity? If this is beyond the comprehension of the angelic mind, how can an earthly creature ever hope to find words to describe it? I therefore can only express the mere wish that all mortals might come to a knowledge of the precious value of faith, by learning it from this heavenly original, in whom faith attained its ultimate perfection, and where it completely fulfilled the end for which it was created. Let the infidels, the heretics, the pagans, and idolaters approach this mistress of faith, Most Holy Mary, in order to be enlightened in their falsehoods and darksome errors, and in order to find the sure way toward the last end of their being. Let also Catholics approach and learn to understand the copious rewards of this virtue. Let them ask the Lord with the apostles to increase their faith. Not that they ever can reach the faith of Most Holy Mary, but let them ask for the desire to imitate her and follow her. For by her faith she teaches us, and by her merits she helps us to obtain this virtue. St. Paul calls the patriarch Abraham the father of all the faithful, because he first received the promise, hoping against hope. He wishes to extol the excellence of the patriarch's faith, because he believed the promise of the Lord, that Sarah, his wife, would bear him a son, though she was sterile and, according to the laws of nature, incapable of conception. Moreover, in offering his son as a sacrifice at God's command, he relinquished at the same time the prospect of the countless offspring which the Lord had promised to him. This all and many other sayings and promises of the Lord were made impossible of fulfillment according to the laws of nature. Yet Abraham believed that the divine power could execute them in a supernatural manner. Therefore he merited to be called the father of all the believers, and to receive the seal of his faith, which justified him, namely circumcision. But our supereminent Lady, Mary, possesses much greater rights and titles to be called the Mother of Faith and of all the faithful. In her hand is hoisted the standard and ensign of faith for all the believers in the law of grace. First, indeed, according to the order of time, was the patriarch, and consequently he was ordained to be the father and head of the Hebrew people. Great was his belief in the promises concerning Christ our Lord, and in the works of the Most High. Nevertheless, incomparably more admirable was the faith of Mary in all these regards, and she excels him in dignity. Greater difficulty and incongruity was there that a virgin should conceive and bring forth than that an aged and sterile woman should bear fruit. And the patriarch Abraham was not so certain of the sacrifice of Isaac as Mary was of the inevitable sacrifice of her most holy Son. She is the one who perfectly believed and hoped in all the mysteries, and she shows to the whole Church how it must believe in the Most High and in the works of his redemption. Having thus understood the faith of Mary our Queen, we must admit her to be the mother of the faithful and the prototype of the Catholic faith and of holy hope. And in order to conclude this chapter, I will add that Christ, our Redeemer and Teacher, as he was a comprehensor and as his most holy soul enjoyed the highest glory and the beatific vision, had no necessity or occasion for faith, nor could he, in his own actions, give us an example of this virtue. But what the Lord could not do in his own person, he did in the person of his most holy mother, constituting her as the foundress, the mother, and the example of faith in his evangelical church. And thus, on the day of universal accounting, this sovereign mistress and queen shall, in an especial manner, assist her most holy Son in the judgment of those who, in spite of such an example, have not believed during their stay on earth. Instruction of the Mother of God, Our Lady. My daughter, the inestimable treasure of the virtue of divine faith is hidden to those mortals who have only carnal and earthly eyes, for they do not know how to appreciate and esteem a gift and blessing of such incomparable value. Consider, my dearest, that the world was without faith, and what it would be today if my Son and Lord would not preserve faith. How many men whom the world has celebrated as great, powerful, and wise have precipitated themselves, on account of the want of light of faith, from the darkness of their unbelief into most abominable sins, and thence into the eternal darkness of hell. How many kingdoms and provinces, being blind themselves, follow these still more blind leaders until they together fall into the abyss of eternal pains. And they are followed by the bad Christians, who, having received the grace and blessing of faith, live as if they had it not in their hearts. Do not forget, my dear friend, to be thankful for this precious jewel which the Lord has given thee as a dower and a wedding gift of thy espousal with him, in order to draw thee to the bridal chamber of his holy church, and afterwards to have intercourse with him in the eternal beatitude. Continually exercise this virtue of faith, for it places thee near to thy last end, after which thou strivest, and brings thee near to the object of thy desires and thy love. Faith teaches the sure way of eternal salvation. Faith is the light that shines in the darkness of this mortal life and pilgrimage. It leads men securely to the possession of the fatherland, to which they are wayfaring, if they do not allow it to die out by infidelity and sinfulness. Faith enlivens the other virtues, and serves as the nourishment of the just man, and a support in his labors. Faith confounds and fills with fear the infidels and the lax Christians in their negligence, for it convinces them in this world of their sin, and threatens punishment in the life to come. Faith is powerful to do all things, for nothing is impossible to the believer. Faith makes all things attainable and possible. Faith illumines and ennobles the understanding of man, since it directs him in the darkness of his natural ignorance, not to stray from the way, and it elevates him above himself, so that he sees and understands with infallible certainty what is far above his powers, and assures him of it no less than if he saw it clearly before him. He is thus freed from the gross and vile narrow-mindedness of those who will believe only what they can experience by their own limited natural powers, not considering that the soul, as long as it lives in the prison of this corruptible body, is very much circumscribed and limited in its sphere of action by the knowledge drawn from the coarse activity of the senses. Appreciate, therefore, my daughter, this priceless treasure of the Catholic faith, given thee by God. Watch over it and practice it in great esteem and reverence.